Hey, welcome to a very special episode of the Smart Music Business Podcast where I interview my amazing wife, who is not only my business partner, but my graphic designer, sometimes my song critiquer, and has traveled all over the world with me, helping me book shows, you name it. This interview is going to be awesome. Let's go. I spent the last 14 years playing over 1,000 shows, touring 22 different countries, and become a top 40 Billboard charting artist. I fired my record label to go out on my own as an independent artist to market and release my own music, selling thousands of albums and millions of streams. The question I always get is, how did I do it without a label and sell even more music? This podcast is here to show you the way. Join me and follow along as I learn, apply, and share marketing strategies to grow my music business and a loyal fan base. Hey guys, it's Chris Greenwood here, also known as Manafest. Welcome to this month's masterclass in Fanbase University. Today, I get to sit down with my beautiful, amazing wife / business partner / designer, brander, videographer, baby mama, and everything else that's helped me be successful in the music industry. So I'm going to interview her and ask her a bunch of questions that you guys are going to find super valuable. So get ready and let's get going. Babe, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Glad to be here.
So question number one, talk about the early days in trying to get this thing going from, the music side of it to the design side of it, because we really didn't know what we were doing when we first started.
Yeah, well, I guess I should let everyone know, Chris and I have been together for like 100 years pretty much, so since I was 17. So when we were kids, we were literally like kids when we got together and we were started to date, and I remember Chris kind of had this dream of doing music at the time, and so the first few years he was doing a bunch of ghetto shows and stuff like that, and I'd go to these shows and be like the supportive girlfriend, And then I got into college, and I studied graphic design for 3 years at George Brown College in Toronto. Loved school, and even in school, as I was figuring things out, Chris was figuring things out in his music career, so he was trying to figure out, how do I even put out my first EP? How do I, do my first steps, kind of just getting out there. And I remember one of my first real funny memories is, designing for Misled Youth, which is actually Chris's first ever music release. And it was a little EP that had 5 songs on it, and it was enhanced. Remember that?
Yeah, I had the music video too. Yeah.
And I remember I didn't even barely know how to use Photoshop. I was still figuring out how to turn on a Mac. I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember we went out one night and we did a photo shoot at night. Remember that? At the skate park in Pickering, which is our hometown, Pickering, Ontario. And basically, I was just playing with the camera, trying to figure out how to do long exposure, how to make something fun and make something cool with this shot. And I remember that became the cover shot. Yeah. And it was just a really fun kind of journey because I was in school figuring out what I was doing. He was figuring out what he was doing. Barely knew how to write music, how to make music, but we were just kind of figuring it out as we went along.
Yeah.
And I remember the night before we actually submitted the EP, we were all huddled around my old PC computer.
That's right.
In my room, and I didn't even know how to put anything in, how to actually do production for design. So it was calling at a friend who was a designer and being help me submit this. I don't even know what I'm doing. And all of us were just figuring it out as we went along. So I think that was that's my first real memories of getting started with this whole thing is just starting and just trying stuff and basically making a ton of mistakes, a ton of typos, a ton of really bad design at the beginning, and but just kind of getting going. And I think that's kind of part of our early years, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and done is better than perfect,
Yeah.
And I think you said it really good. It's just we didn't know what we were doing, but we just tried. And you guys might not know what you're doing, but just get out there. You'll learn as you're going along.
Yeah,
right?
I think the mistakes is what makes it kind of authentic, which makes it kind of part of the fun, we actually look back at some of the things that we did and the mistakes that we made, and we just laugh. We're oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. But we just didn't know any better. We were just starting out, just trying to learn and grow and figure it out.
Some stuff was really cool. It's oh, that did work. And
yeah, and I think that if you don't start, you don't have a reaction. If you never start, if you never put out, your first EP or single or whatever it might be, then it's you never really know what's going to happen. And so I think just by starting, you start a reaction of response and start a kind of a movement.
So here's another question. It's kind of broad, but what was one of the hardest moments in growing this thing where we're trying to build it, whether just for you personally as wife
Which
of
one?
an artist,
I don't know which one to choose. There's so many.
or just a hard moment where you know that you thought that we're just trying to get through together. I can obviously think of lots, but I want to hear
there's
yours.
honestly, let's just be honest, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool moments too, but
We'll get to those.
Yeah, we'll get to those too. I mean, I remember like sharing meals off the dollar menu at McDonald's because we had no money at all, and we had left our day jobs, and we were like touring out in the middle of like cities and towns that we never even heard of before, and we were just trying to get from one place to the next on tour. And our families thought we were nuts, you know. Remember, like I think a lot of our friends probably thought we were nuts, but we just had this thought inside of us, and people think that like I was like the crazy wife because I was going along with this, but the dream was, I was kind of crazy, but the dream was in me as well, just to really see this movement happen. And I think that's the difference, is that when, as the partner or the wife or the husband, whatever, that if you also have the dream, then it makes you kind of have the endurance to kind of get through it all and like actually, you know, fight through it with your partner who's actually the artist. Because I'm not an artist, I'm not musical at all, you don't want to hear me sing. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy moments. But yeah, I think of like sharing chili from Tim Hortons in Canada.
Because we had to, just to save money.
We had $0, and even that
sacrifice.
felt like a splurge because we had no money, and everything we were doing at the beginning was off of like our credit line, and like had no money, no coffees out. Like literally, we weren't even sure we'd be sleeping sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we sleep in like the car, and like it was nuts for a while. And yeah, I don't even think I told like my family some things because I was just like, don't worry, we're having a great time out on tour. But yeah, there was a lot of really crazy moments, but it was all part of the journey. And honestly, we were young, we were in our 20s, we didn't have kids yet, so we were just like, hey, let's go for it, let's see some places and have fun. So.
What do you think was one of my lowest or hardest moments, like where you're like, oh crap, like maybe I got rejected by something, or just a time where like he's really going through it as an artist right now, that might encourage the people watching?
Well, yeah, I remember one of the hardest moments is actually pretty close to the beginning when we had a record label come out to Canada to see Chris perform. And we're all like, yeah, he's gonna get signed tonight. And it was just like this big thing. And you've probably told this story to your community, I'm assuming. But yeah, we were like, he's gonna get signed. It's gonna be like rock star lifestyle. This is gonna be awesome. And then within, I think, a few weeks after that, we heard that you weren't gonna get signed to that deal. And we were like, oh my gosh, devastation. Like, he was like totally devastated and like,
I got shingles.
I think he like cried. You got shingles. Yeah, he got shingles.
SARS face, as one of my friends called me.
He had like shingles face, and it was just like, it was pretty freaky because the doctor's like, yeah, you could have like lost your eyesight and stuff like that. It wasn't a joke.
Up.
I shouldn't even be laughing because it's actually pretty serious. But it kind of like, that was a really crappy moment. It was just like, now what?
So screw this almost.
Yeah, it was kind of like, forget this then, you know?
I'm gonna give up. I'm done.
So I think that was probably one of your worst moments. Yeah. There's been a lot, but
And then I went to the studio that weekend where I wasn't supposed to hang out with the guy that's actually behind the camera right now, which is Chris Stacy, and he's the one that actually called me SARS face.
He's a total troublemaker.
Anyways, moving on, what does it take then for an artist to be successful? What do you think it takes, these days? And I know it takes a lot, and if you want to cover a few things or just focus on one thing, that's fine.
Well, I think number one, it's just it's about what we're talking about right now, which is going through stuff and having the courage to just not give up, because I feel like there's going to be 1,000 things thrown out at you as an artist. If any artists that are watching, like, don't expect it all just to fall into your lap. I mean, obviously that's an obvious thing to say, and it sounds almost like a cookie cutter answer, but the truth is there's going to be a ton of doors slammed in your face. There's going to be people that just say flat out no to you. But if you don't quit, I feel like you have a higher chance of being successful than 99% of the rest of the artists out there. And I think that a lot of people just don't even try because they're like, well, it won't work, or I don't have the money, or I don't have, this or that, or the time, or whatever. And they give themselves a long list of excuses as to why they shouldn't do it. But I guess that would be my answer, is that if you don't give up, that you have a higher chance of being successful. And really just fighting through stuff. You have to develop a bit of a tough layer of skin, and it's like anybody in any kind of show business, or like even in fashion. I worked in fashion for many years. It's like you have to develop a sense of like kind of courage to be like, you know what, I'm not being rejected. It's just my art, or it's just whatever. Like, it's not necessarily, you have to kind of separate you from your art in a way and be like, it's okay, not everyone's gonna like what I do, and that's okay. So.
And I kind of feel like being a bit of a jerk right now, but it's like, you didn't try just because you put out one EP or 2 albums or 3, put out 4, one show isn't trying, 50 shows is trying, 100 shows is trying, and really pushing through that crap, because a lot of artists give up after just the first song or the first little EP, and they didn't get the response, the reaction they want, so they put their tail in between their legs and they cried and they gave up. Obviously, if you're watching this video, I know you're not that, but it's
but
more.
That's what makes artists though, is that they are sensitive. Like artists, I mean, I'm one. Like, I'm sensitive.
Right.
So like, artists have emotional responses, and that's okay, because that's what makes you an artist. Like, that's what makes you awesome at what you do, is because you have emotion. You are not afraid to express that. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but my point is, in the middle of all that, you have to be able to keep going and keep pushing. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, and so what do you think is some of the misconceptions artists have about the music industry?
I think that like, they're gonna be found, I think that's probably the biggest one. And I think, that someone's gonna walk into their studio or into their basement where they're writing their songs, and they're gonna find them and say, wow, you're like the next big thing, I'm gonna make you famous. And I think that's still one of the biggest misconceptions. I think that's being slowly broken down now that the artist is kind of getting more self-aware and more educated. Even like groups like this, of just being like kind of self-empowered, to know that you have a lot more power than you might realize.
That's good.
But yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, that someone else is gonna find you and like make you a success. I think nowadays it's about you making your own successful path, and you actually saying, hey, I'm gonna call people, I'm gonna book my own shows, I'm gonna call down a bunch of photographers, find the one that's gonna work for my band, and like make it happen. I think you have to kind of have a business hat on nowadays more than ever, just because the artist now, I feel like, has more of that powerful position than they ever have. So
that DIY.
Yeah, total DIY. Like, you don't even need as much money as you did before, because I feel like now with the way that the world is, you can like do so much creative stuff without having huge expensive budgets. So.
And this is the thing, and we were talking about this in the drive down here, is that, sure, I was signed, but we kind of acted as our own record label, because you kind of did all the artwork, all the stuff. We they handed it to the label. Do you want to kind of share?
Yeah, it was kind of, I mean, in your case, you had a licensing deal. So licensing deals are different because you're still in control of all your own creative stuff. And I mean, record label, it depends on the deal, obviously. But in our case, we literally would package everything, create it all, do the photography, whether we had different photographers involved. We had Chris Stacy behind the camera right now doing videos. So we had like an in-house group of us that were making it all. And then we literally give it all to the label and be like, here you go, all on a platter, now put it out. And so, yeah, we felt like we were kind of having to figure out so much of it.
Yeah, which was good because it gave us control. We weren't expecting the label to do this and do that. We would almost do it all, and then they would just distribute it, which, sometimes we wanted them to be more involved, but sometimes I felt like the stuff
we're kind of control freaks, I think, too.
Yeah.
In the process of all this, I think we wanted more control because we were well, you knew your fans, you know what I mean? So you didn't really want, I don't think, somebody else coming in, taking over.
Yeah, well, no one's going to care as much as us. I remember when they did that lyric video for us, and they took your images, and they just put these crappy lyrics below it. And
we're just, seriously, that's it?
Why did you even do,
they
just
not trying to, dog the label or whatever,
right.
But yeah, we definitely, we like to have that kind of control, I think.
Yeah, I just think nobody's going to care as much as we are. Well, how important do you think design is to an artist's career?
Well, before we get on to that, let me just respond to the first one first really quick, because I feel basically at the very beginning when we were wanting more help from the label, we were kind of had that I think we were oh, poor us, it's so hard, we're trying to make it and the label's not helping us and all this stuff. And I feel that really quickly turned into, wait a second, we got to figure this out, because we're not getting as much help from the label. We're not getting as much help from this and that. We don't have sugar daddies or whatever. We don't have people giving us money and all these things. So we have to figure this out creatively.
Yeah.
And I feel that developed a muscle in us to be solution oriented rather than whining. Because I feel we didn't have time to whine. We didn't have extra money to waste. So
Right.
the money we were putting in was our own dollars. So I feel like that is just kind of important to note, that we kind of had to figure that out as we went along. So maybe you're in that position where you're like, oh, I don't really know how I'm going to figure this out. Don't give up. Maybe just keep researching, finding things to reference, and to be creative within your own band and within your own, like, even friends, girlfriends, like boyfriends. Like, bring people in that are part of your family. Bring people in that
Be
can
resourceful, be creative.
Be resourceful, and like find a way to make things happen, because it's totally possible.
It's good.
So sorry, next
No,
question.
it's good. No, it's good. It's really good. How important is design for an artist and their brand?
Well, it's kind of like fashion. It's like, what do you wear when you walk, go up on stage, or how are you presenting yourself to the world? And you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So I feel like it's that important. It's part of your brand. It's part of what you're saying to the world. How you present yourself in every way is extremely important. So I would say design is absolutely important. It's basically what your first face that you're presenting to most people, because most people aren't going to see you perform in person nowadays. They're going to see your album cover and make a decision about you, or they're going to see your logo somewhere. Maybe they're going to see a little circle version of your logo on Instagram or whatever it might be. So I feel like it's vital to have really great design, and not just great design, but great design that works for you, for your messages, and for the people that you're trying to connect with. So yeah, I would say it's vital, for sure.
When should an artist invest in, getting a logo and all that designed, and, like what point of their career should they get that done?
Pretty much ASAP, really. I think, like, as soon as you're thinking about anything to do with your visuals, so same time when you're thinking of your photography, any time that you have to actually present yourself, like right away, I would say you need a logo. You need some kind of a typographic logo of your band title. You need imagery associated with your band, so right away.
And I think you hit it right. Is like, you want someone that knows your image and knows your style, because like we've had people design for us before and it wasn't on brand, it was off brand, and it's just like, that's going out to the world. Like, it's not just someone seeing it at a show, it could be seen by thousands. So it's really important not to just hire somebody on Fiverr. Like, not saying you can't get someone on there.
Well, yeah, it depends on, like, just think about it like this. Think about your favorite band right now. Just like close your eyes and think about that person or that band. You're gonna think about possibly their logo. You're possibly gonna think about an image that they put out. Maybe it was their poster that like everybody has on their walls, Think about those iconic logos that we all know of in, music history. And what is it about those logos that like stays with you? It's because something about you connected to their music, and that image, that logo, that font, that letter, that photo or whatever it might be, it sticks with you in your mind. It's that relevant, I guess you could say, to how you respond to their music. It's part of your experience with them. So I think it's just so important to think about these things.
Is there anything specifically, this is just one of the Fanbase you members asking, like anything specific to include in the logo, or any advice when approaching a designer? Like if someone wants to even hit you up for a logo, like because you were working on a logo this morning.
Don't call me, I'm busy. Just kidding. Okay, I was just joking, by the way. Okay, so first of all, you want to do a bit of research before you contact a designer. So say if someone's contacting me, I would kind of interview them over the phone or over email. Probably over the phone is better. And I would basically ask them to give me some reference material. So what brands do you kind of relate to? What fashion brands? What bands out there? What other types of logos? How do you dress? What kind of other music do you like? I'd ask them a whole bunch of questions to kind of get inside their head as to who they are, and not just that, but who are they trying to reach? Like I would ask, what kind of kids come to your shows? What kind of people are you hanging out with? Are you a skater? Are you into surf culture? Like what are you about, basically? And I'd kind of need like that roundabout kind of research and information, and then go from there. But yeah, I think just really lots of reference material is always a good thing. Giving people something to work with helps. Because otherwise, if you're like, I want this great logo, and then they come back with like something off the wall, and they're just being creative. They're trying to make something out of nothing. And if you don't give them any reference, they're going to give you something that's not going to work for you. Yeah. So
Know what you want.
Know what you want, like, you know.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, artists don't know what they want and need a little bit more coaching. And that's, again, okay, knowing what kind of music, who you want to, you know, go after, so at least you can, or the designer.
And that's the job of the designer, is to help bring that out of you. Like, maybe you're like, honestly, I have no idea what I like. I have no idea. I've never even thought of logos. I just make music. I don't think about that kind of stuff. That's cool too, but you know, the designer will kind of work with you, especially if they're a great designer. They'll begin to kind of pull that out of you, like, okay, well, what other kind of brands do you just, you know, drawn towards? What kind of colors, what kind of textures? Are you more of like the earthy kid that's all like eco-friendly everything, or are you like the mod kid that's all about like black and white everything? My whole wardrobe's black and white. Are you a minimalist? Like, what are you? And I think when they find out what you are and who you are, it's going to be easier to translate that.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage you guys, like, to spend $400, $500, $600, $700 on a logo is totally worth it, because you got to remember, this is going on your shirts, it's going on your stickers, this is going on your album artwork, your lyric cards, your website. It's going everywhere. And so, like, you know, you sell, you know, shirts for $20 at a show, you know, or you sell 50 CDs, $10, like, you're going to make your money back. And it's like a long-term investment. Like, we eventually changed the logo up after like 10 years, you know what I mean? But that one you designed served us for
and that's the thing. It's okay for it to kind of evolve. It's okay for your image to evolve. We're not saying it has to be set in stone, or, you know, you have to stick with one image forever. And on another note, with your logo, one thing I would suggest too is to have a logo that's your full band name, and also to have some kind of an icon. The reason why is because there's not always going to be space on everything for your full band. Like, so for example, you could have some kind of an icon designed that could be like this massive backdrop for you on stage, or it could be like a really small spot that you don't have a lot of room for, maybe within like Instagram or within social media, where you want to represent yourself, but you don't have the space for your like 5-word band name or whatever it might be. So
yeah, like you did Manafest, and then you did the M for me. We had that M for a while,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's kind of good to have both, or like a variation of like a smaller variation of your full-length logo.
Cool. We're switching gears here a little bit, and I want to come back to the design in a second, but when do you think we made it? Like, when do you think, you know, I felt like I had made it? And I know we're still hustling, and, you know, like,
we're still working hard.
It wasn't just quitting the job, like, because there's always something else, and then always something else, and, you know, we've got goals for this year now, and, you know, are always hungry for more. But what was one of the points where you felt like we finally had some breakthrough or some air to breathe?
Honestly, I don't know if I really believe in that idea we made it, you know, because I feel like our dreams are so much bigger now than they have ever been. But there's been moments in our history that I've been like, oh, this is awesome. I'm so excited right now. Like when we first went to Japan.
Right.
Like, I feel like that was insane, because we went to a country on the other side of the world, and they all knew Chris's songs. Like, they were like belting them out like I've never heard before, ever before. That was a moment in time that I was like, wow, this is it. This is like,
it's real.
This is real. This is like, it's happened, you know? But then we moved on, and there's other things that happened. So, I think just traveling to certain places, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of an ongoing story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. Because it's like once you hit one goal or one dream, then there's another one, and you always want to
and we don't usually
stretching.
Stop that long to celebrate, which is probably not a good thing. Maybe that's
something we should probably have done more, celebrated more, you know? We began to. I
think that celebrating the small moments is actually a really good thing, and I don't know if we do that enough, to be honest. So.
Yeah. Out of that, though, and because this, you know, the music industry, it's not easy. There's a lot of sacrifice and whatnot, but, you know, what do you think, you know, as far as freedom and lifestyle that it's afforded us? Like, can you speak into that? Like, once you stick with it, and because we are entrepreneurs, we are business owners, and once you've built something, it has allowed us a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, even at the beginning, like, friends and family they kind of thought we were nuts for a while, and I think they might still do, but, you know, we were the ones that were working really hard on our own time. Like, so say, like, you know, people we knew would have like a 9-to-5 job or whatever, and then they'd come home and they'd chill, and they'd have weekends off or whatever. We'd be like going all the time and working so hard at the beginning, and like early mornings, like leaving at like 3 a.m. to go to places, and like catching flights, and like having these crazy like really hard working lifestyle, but it's like we're paving the groundwork for what we can do now, which is, now that we have our daughter, we can now be able to work anywhere in the world. I run a design company now, which is kind of like an offshoot of really what we are, that basically I can work anywhere in the world, Chris can work anywhere in the world, and basically just having that freedom of lifestyle to be able to open up a laptop and we can be like at a coffee shop near the beach and just chilling and working, and not really chilling, but working hard, but just having that ability to work and then turn it off when we want on our own terms. And I feel like working for yourself, there's that benefit, but then there's also that, like, you have to have a lot of self start and a lot of self kind of drive to get things going. So it's almost like you have to work really hard at the beginning, and then it starts to kind of pay off as you go along. And then there's high moments, there's low moments, but it's all part of it.
Yeah, there's a training, if you guys haven't seen it yet, inside the membership area, and if it's not in there, I will put it in there. It's called Swiss Dollars, which stands for Sales While I Sleep Soundly, or you can call it Streams While I Sleep Soundly. Basically, once you get your music career moving to the point where your songs are working for you, you're not working so hard to get them out there. They start working for you and start making you money basically while you're sleeping to an extent. It takes a very long time to get there, but once you've got there, it does afford you the flexibility where you can choose when you want to work and whatnot. And it has, I think, over time, it's really been a huge blessing,
I feel like over time it's just allowed us to have options. So at the beginning, we didn't have options. The only option we had was, if this is going to work, we're working really hard. And we're working all hours of the day, all hours of the night. We had day jobs at the beginning, so we'd come home and then work all night, every night, work all weekend, every weekend, driving to cities and towns that we never heard of, all of that, like the whole picture. And then as we've progressed and had little moments of success, those moments of success have enabled us to have choices. And that's kind of, I think, what you're talking about, is having that freedom of lifestyle to decide what you want to work on and what you want to put out, and even having that window of time to be like, hey, let's kind of think and create something new and fresh. Whereas I feel like if you're under the gun and you don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of options, you kind of have to make other choices, whereas now I feel like we have a bit more freedom.
Absolutely. So that's a good leading point. Where do you think artists should invest their time and money?
I would invest in songs. I would invest totally, the most you can invest in is in great music. I feel like if your music is great, I would invest there. I would just keep investing there. And whatever you can do to make your songs amazing is probably the best place you can invest. Secondly is to get them heard. So whether it's to go and do an open mic, if that's your only option, if it's to, literally just call people down and say, I need to play some music for you, whatever it might be. To get on shows, to buy onto shows, do whatever you can to get those songs heard. I feel like if you're doing those two things right, then a lot of other things will kind of fall into place.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I would say. And you can't go wrong with the songs. You are my wife. So how important was signing a record deal in the grand scheme of things then?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of record deals right now, to be honest with you. I don't really know if they're necessary right now in history. I feel like the artist is now in the power seat, and I feel like, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely probably times when it might work out for other people. Maybe if they're a major, I don't know, what's called household name or whatever.
Right.
But I don't know. Even then, it's people can blow up really huge one year and then they're gone the next. You never hear from them again, even if they're with those big record labels. So I don't know. I'm more in the inclination to be an independent artist and to hire out individual companies. So hire your own distribution, hire your own radio, hire a great manager, have team, a publicist, and have your own team internally, because I feel like the more control you have, the better. However, that means that you and I mean, I'm not a music artist, but artists in general, so you guys, have to be super educated. You have to be informed on what's happening right now in music. So that's kind of what I would say. I don't know if that's a great answer or not, but I really believe that, I don't know if record labels are the thing anymore. I feel like it's almost like the old model compared to where we are now. So.
And then again, you're in control, because if the label goes away, and then you're just going to be relying on another label. But
it's happened to us before, where our label was bought. while we're in it. And then we're just like, oh, so who's now in control of, your career?
Yeah, I had to talk to somebody else, and
it was
it's
kind of scary, man. Yeah. It's like you're putting your whole heart and life and passion into this music, and then you're giving it over, especially if it's not a good deal. Like, what if you got like one of those 360 deals or something, or one of those like crazy deals where they own everything and then they still own it after you leave them? Yeah. So I'm not really a huge fan of that, man. I'm more a fan of finding your music and writing great songs and being in control, because honestly, artists have always been the influencers in every generation. Like, look in history, like the artists, the visual artists, the music artists, they're the ones who really shaped culture. Yeah. So I want to encourage you guys like out there that are watching this, like, you guys have the power seat right now. Mm-hmm. So whether you're in a label deal or not, and I'm not discouraging you if you are, but just take as much information in as you can, be as educated as you can, and really harness that and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, one of the main rules of success is to maintain control.
Yeah.
And if you know how to do everything yourself, if you know how to make the record, if you know how to get the marketing done for it and the design and all this stuff, then it's almost like then you really don't need them, unless they're going to be a big investment. They're going to be dropping like tons of money. But then again,
they're still owning it. That's my problem, is the owning factor and the holding factor. Because even licensing deals, they can still hold the albums for like years after your release. So honestly, it's a really tough kind of question. That was just my 2 cents, so it doesn't mean it's right. I'm just telling you that's my 2 cents.
And I'm going to kind of ask this question, and it's like, I already know the answer, but it's perfect for this. I just want you to share it because it leads. Is what was one of the biggest mistakes, or what do you think we could have done different, or you wish you saw me doing and tried to stop me from doing?
Re-signing a record deal. Duh. I was the only weirdo that was saying don't sign it, but everyone else wanted to sign something. And do we regret that decision?
We do. Regret it.
We do.
It was a mistake.
And I was like, I'm the wife, right? So I'm like the graphic designer, illustrator girl that's like, I'm not a musician. So I think at the time it was kind of like I was the random person with a random opinion. But as much as I'm not an artist, I've lived the life of an artist 100%. Like I've slept on all the floors. I've slept in cars. I've, not eaten on certain days because we didn't have money. Like I've gone through the whole process. I've had the great moments too of traveling the world and seeing great places too. So I've seen the good side and the bad side of it. And I feel like sometimes it's almost good to have somebody a little bit removed from the scene to kind of look in and go, wait a sec, hold on a second. Are you gonna have any control over your album? No. Okay, are you going to have,
Am I going to get the majority of the income?
Are you going to get the majority of the income? Oh, okay. Like, have somebody that you can bounce some ideas off. Maybe it's, if you're young, maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's an older sibling. Maybe it's a girlfriend, a boyfriend. Maybe it's a husband and wife.
Yeah. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's easy just to go to what and it's your comfort zone. And, obviously we've forgiven that, but I'll just share some more insight into that, guys, is that, there was a nice advance at the beginning of that record label, but compared to the amount of income we would have made as independents if we just put it out ourselves is just, I don't even know how much it would be, but it would be 10 times, maybe 50 times more. And, you learn from that. And, I don't regret it. I don't like whatever.
I sound like a total hater.
I don't even know if you said I told you so or not, but I think
no, because the truth is we were in it then. So what would be the point of me saying I told you so?
Yeah.
Because I was in it. We were in it. As a family, we were in it.
Yeah.
We're still in it, to be honest. But the truth is, I don't want to sound like a total hater or whatever. I'm just somebody that I believe that if you've lived through something and you've made mistakes, that it's good to share them, because I don't really want to be that girl that's like afraid to share mistakes we've made and then watch young new artists go and make the same mistakes that we did. So I would maybe just kind of consider having maybe some consult from the outside, maybe some like family, friends, people that aren't in the industry to give some perspective. Because in the industry, there's a lot of people that are all working in the same scene, and it's kind of sometimes hard to get a real gauge on things.
I have a question from a Fanbase member. It's Aaron. He says, what's one thing you've seen artists do that is a huge hindrance, and how do they avoid it?
One thing artists do that's a huge hindrance. Okay.
Could Because we know lots of more artists that were more successful, or no, more talented than me. And you've seen a lot of artists, you've worked with a lot of artists, and we've seen a lot of artists come and go, haven't we? So
yeah,
what do you think? What do you think?
Man, that's kind of a hard question, but it's a really good question. Honestly, I feel like it comes back to attitude of the artist. So for example, I've met so many artists that are like insanely talented. They've had a great success story. And then somewhere along the line, things happened, which they always will in the music industry. The music industry is notorious for like cutthroat, right? Yeah. And along the way, they get really jaded and they get really angry and they internalize a lot of stuff. And then eventually they get just, bummed out and jaded, and their attitude shifts. And that's basically what I would say is, that's the thing that I'm watching a little baby walk by. She's so cute. Hi, Frankie. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry. But yeah, I would say definitely that's probably the biggest hindrance is the wrong attitude. And yeah, I feel like I'm like the mom coming in right now and like giving advice.
We all need encouragement here. It's good.
I guess I just lived this thing, I'm 35, okay? And I've been in this since I was 17. Mm-hmm. I've been in this whole journey. So, gosh, I feel so old saying that, but it's true. And I've lived through some stuff. I've seen major artists come and go. I've seen record labels come and go. I've seen, bands break up. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many bands break up.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I feel like it always comes back to the attitude of the artist. So just in saying all that, I guess I'm just saying don't kind of adopt a negative attitude. You have to just assume the best and assume that there's a positive outcome. And even if it isn't, just go for it and like honestly put a smile on your face and enjoy your life. Like enjoy the journey and kind of forgive along the way. I know it's kind of freaky to say that, but
yeah.
There's going to be people that are going to do you wrong, and that's just the truth. You're going to have to just leave them where they are and keep going, because if you don't, you're going to be angry, and it's going to affect your career. It's going to affect your creativity and stuff like that. So I would say that's probably my biggest thing.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, babe, for
thank you.
Coming in.
And
if some of these guys, girls want to get a hold of you, need some design or anything like that, she's not cheap, okay, but you get
I'm really expensive
quality out there. Where can they get a hold of you?
You can check me out at visioncity.biz, and that's where you can find out more information about me. And I've also got an inspirational art print and greeting card line on Etsy, so you can look me up on Vision City Paper, and that's where you can find me.
Cool. Well, hey guys, thanks so much for watching this month's master class in Fanbase University. Post a comment below. Let me know what you think. And if you have any other questions, I will get to those. And go take action on this, guys. Keep a good attitude. Stay in the game. Get out there and try some stuff. Don't worry if you make a mistake or if you're not great at the beginning. As you can see, we just started with what we had, but we look back now, over 10 years later, we're even further down the line. Have an awesome week. So if you're a struggling artist and you're just trying to figure out this music industry, you want to go full time with your music, you want to get noticed on social media, or learn how to launch an album, an EP, or just get your music more marketed out there, I want to encourage you to check out my coaching program called Fanbase University. Every single month, I jump on the phone 2 times with my students and I coach them and I teach them how to market their music, how to get noticed, how to handle booking agents, record labels, and just get their music out there. Also, you get access to exclusive training, you get interviews with music industry professionals. If you want to find out more and not do this on your own, not struggle, because I've wasted thousands of dollars on my career and now I want to coach other artists. Check out my program, fanbaseuniversity.com, or click the link below to find out more info.